My advice to you is, despite all of this, do not buy an RX-8. Hey, welcome to GT Canada. This is a 2005 Mazda RX-8. This is the first generation of the new series RX-8 after the RX-7 had been retired. This car has the 1.3 liter rotary engine. And what that means is it's different than any other car on the market at the time when this was released, and still the last car in production that has a Wankel rotary engine. If you're not sure what a Wankel rotary engine is, I will post links in the description on explaining what that is. This particular model is a 6-speed with the 240 horsepower rotary engine. Now, it did come in two other variants, a automatic and a 5-speed manual. Both of those came with only a 190 horsepower engine, and there are actual differences between the two engines. So it's not just a difference of a tune or a different exhaust or that sort of thing. It actually is a physically different engine. So you can't just go and pump up your automatic and turn it into the 240 horsepower model. You would need to find one that is a 6-speed. Or you can do what this one is, and the original owner swapped this for the 6-speed manual. So he got a donor car that was wrecked that had the proper engine and the 6-speed manual, and then pulled the automatic transmission out of this and put the manual and the engine in this car to turn it into a 6-speed manual with that 240 horsepower. You can see the after effects of that when you look at the steering wheel, because it still has the flappy paddle buttons for shifting, which did not exist on the true manual transmission car. Now, this car was originally announced in the early 2000s, but it didn't land in North America until a 2004 model. Now, the 2004s had a Series 1 rotary engine in it, which have been known to not hold up well over time. And for that reason, this generation, the first series of this generation, actually has a much lower resale value, and the depreciation is quite high. If you're thinking about buying an RX-8, just don't. Inside the car, you'll see it's actually fairly well appointed. So it is a 6-speed manual. It does have navigation and DVD, AM, FM. It's got cruise control, fake flappy paddle shifters. It has on the door power windows, power door locks, power mirrors. It has power seats, and it has air conditioning. But the biggest feature about this car is that it actually is a 4-door. So it has these rear suicide doors that open up, allowing easy access for your rear passengers to get in and out. The only problem with that is you have to have the front door open in order to open that. So it can create an interesting scene in, like, say, a parking lot, for example, where if you're trying to get out and there's a car beside you, you've kind of blocked yourself in. So you end up getting up, closing this, and then stepping out of the way, and then closing that, and then going about your business. One thing you do have to get over is the traditional Mazda happy face front end. It seems like all Mazdas have a smiling face on the front, and this generation of car is no different. When you're driving down the highway, it looks like you're trying to give everyone a big wink and a smile. Let's look at the engine. Now, this is where you get a good shot of the engine. Now, the engine itself normally would have a big plastic shroud over it here. Because this one has the aftermarket cold air intake, a lot of guys pull that off. So the engine is actually way back here. So this is the engine. Up here is all just extra space. Now, on this car, I have upgraded it to a all aluminum radiator, but there is enough room in here for guys that are doing LS swaps and other kind of interesting modifications. If you are a fan of this rotary engine, why would you want to talk about an LS swap? Well, it's actually quite simple. You see, the rotary engine is not known for its durability and its longevity. And that's further amplified by the fact this is a Series 1. And like I was saying, Series 1 tends to not hold its value. And that's because word got out that this engine tends to only last for around 140,000 miles, or roughly 180 to 200,000 kilometers. That's not a lot of engine life compared to what we're used to with our Chevys, for example, that'll easily do 350 to 400,000 kilometers, or your Toyotas that'll do 500,000 miles. What can you do to help prolong the life of your engine? I'm glad you asked. I keep in my trunk a bottle of two-stroke oil, and every time I fill this car up with gas, I dump some two-stroke oil into the gas tank. Now this is actually a quite common practice for most RX-8 owners that know this car. People who buy this car who think they're buying a regular old car are quickly surprised by this fact, but by adding two-stroke oil to your gas, you can significantly increase the life of your car. One of the ways to tell if your car has an engine that is starting to have problems, especially low compression, apex seals, and that sort of thing, the first signs that there's a real problem starting to come up is cold starting issues, or if you start the car and then stop it right away and then start it back up again, it will flood out. And that's due to that low compression. So if you're looking to buying one of these cars and it has starting issues when it's cold, or when it's hot, or when it's been started and then shut down and then trying to start again, stay away, or buy that car knowing that it will need engine work, and that can cost you $3,000 to $4,000 on a good day. If you do it yourself, you can do it for less, but I would say don't do it yourself, especially if you're not sure what you're looking at here. The thing with this car though, it has an amazing red line and it sounds beautiful when it fires up. And I'm going to show you that right now. Now in this particular car's case, the reason why that exhaust sounds so good is because it's actually had the catalytic converters knocked out. So there's essentially a straight through mid pipe. I did make another video showing you how to do that on a different car. It's a very easy mod to do on this particular car, and a lot of guys do it. It is not smog legal, so if you're in a state where you have to pass a emissions test or a smog testing of any sort, this car will not pass that test, and that will create a problem for you. However, the upside is amazing. This car comes alive at the high RPMs. Once you get over 6,000 RPM, it's almost like driving a two-stroke dirt bike, where it just kicks in and pulls again, and it pulls all the way to its 9,000 RPM red line. You can use all the revs in the power band on this car and have a great time. It revs high, it corners well, it's an all-around great car. This is a car that Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear said was made by a committee, and that's where they took suggestions on things that they should implement into their brand new sports car, and they put it all into a hat, and rather than picking out the good suggestions, they said, let's just do all of them. And so that does create a unique styling design, which is kind of a love it or hate it. You really do either love it or hate it. Now, personally, I've really had a special place in my heart for the styling of this car. Do I love it? I don't know. I don't hate it. It is a pretty car to look at, and it's a lot of fun to drive. So I bought this car for around 3,000 Canadian dollars. It was the cheapest car I could find in Western Canada at that time. I also bought it in the middle of winter. Now you may be wondering, what am I doing with this car? Well, every year we try to do a fun road trip. This car was purchased for the ultimate fun road trip on a budget. Those of you that have watched my live stream, you know that the day before we were supposed to leave for our scheduled road trip, I broke the radiator. There's a little plastic nipple on there that just gets brittle and cracks off. Everybody that owns an RX-8 knows about this. I did not. I found out about it the hard way. So I replaced the radiator with an all aluminum radiator, so that won't ever happen to anyone ever again. However, it did put me out of commission for about a month while I waited for it to come and then repair it. I did live stream the repair of it. It took 4 hours. There was a little bit of messing around involved, so it wasn't straight, but it is a big job. Now the question is, what am I going to do with this car? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because I'm not doing the road trip, I don't really need this car. I've got enough other cars, I've got other projects. While this car is fun, it is for sale now because I just don't need it anymore. But while I've had it for sale, I have discovered a new challenge with this car. And this is the reason why my advice to you is, despite all of this, do not buy an RX-8. I thought this was a high demand car. First thing is, this is not a high demand car. People love seeing it. They love seeing people in it. When I drive around, everyone's giving thumbs up, they're waving, they're smiling. Everybody's happy when they see this car. But nobody wants to own this car. And I think that's really because the word got out that this is a fragile car. And because of that, people who aren't mechanically inclined just shy away from it. So there's really only a couple kinds of people that are messaging me about this car to come and buy it. And that is guys who already own one. And in a lot of cases, they own 2 or 3 or 4 or even 5 cars. They just want to buy this to use as a parts car to keep their car on the road. They know how fragile the car is, so they know having a couple of spare cars around is well worth it if it means you can keep your car on the road. This one is a perfectly running, driving, moving example of an RX-8. It would be a shame to see it just parted out. It maybe isn't in mint condition, and the price reflected that. This body has been resprayed at least once. It's got a manual transmission swap, so it's a bit of a Frankenstein car. So it's totally understandable, but it's still a nice car and it's a fun mode of transportation for the summertime. The kinds of people that are actually buying these cars are the same kinds of people that buy Subarus, Audis, Volkswagen, Volvos, Saabs. And what I mean by that, it's not like derogatory. I don't think they're weird in any way, but the people that buy them know about them. They understand them. They've researched them. They've owned 100 of them. They can't imagine a life where they don't own one of these. The problem is that's a very small group. It's a small market. And the guys who are in that group, they don't want to pay anything for it, partly because they already got one. So they're only offering bottom dollar for another one. The guys who don't know anything about it, but just see the picture and say, I like that car, they come and look at it and they're surprised by the quirks of the car. They're surprised by all these things that they didn't know. They thought they were just coming to buy a regular car, and then they find out it's so much more than a regular car. It's like having a small child. You have to know how to look after it and take care of it and change its diapers. If you don't know how to look after a small child, it can be a very daunting job. So they end up leaving. They end up just not buying the car. So then you're stuck in the position where I'm at right now, which is I have to figure out what this car is worth to me and if I'm willing to just give it away for nothing. And I'm not prepared to do that. I've got a lot of fun that I need to get out of this car. So you may see it in future videos unless somebody comes along that really appreciates it as much as I do and is willing to pay the dollars that I've assigned for its value to me, the personal value that I need to get out of this car. If you're looking at a car like this to buy for yourself, just understand, buy it because you want it. Buy it because you will enjoy it. And if you can sell it for money when you're done, great, but you probably won't be able to. And that's gonna be a kicker unless you know ahead of time. There's lots of other videos on YouTube that tell you all about check this, check that, the 10 things you need to know about buying a car, about buying an RX-8. I'm not gonna get into those. I'm telling you about my personal experience and that it's a love-hate thing. I love this car, I love looking at this car, I love getting in it and driving it. But I also don't like having a car that I know is a hugely depreciating asset and a ticking time bomb. This car will at some point die, and I could be stuck with a major repair. And at that point, I would have to reevaluate how much I really love this car. I hope that helped you out. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel down below. We do got a lot of other videos over here you can check out. We hope to see you again, but until next time, have a great day.